my friends. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I was running around looking for my headphones. I can't find them, so it's a little bit echoey. We're just gonna roll with it. It's gonna be awesome. If you are here live, say hello. If you're here catching the replay, I know there's quite a few of you who messaged me and said you will be with me on the replay, which is totally great, fantastic, no worries. You're still gonna get the same value out of this. I just want you to let me know that you're here so I can celebrate you and honor you for sharing your time with me. I know that you have so many places you can invest your time and your energy, so it is not lost on me how important and meaningful and beautiful it is that you are sharing it with me. So, hey Laura, happy to see you. I am so excited about this free 3-day thing. Laura says, thank you so much for this series. You're so welcome. I'm so happy. I'm really hoping it serves you. And if you are new to our community, please introduce yourself and say hello. I have a welcome message that I'll be posting later today. But if you are new here, welcome, welcome. Consider this a virtual hug. I'm a hugger. Amita! I'm so happy that you have chosen to come play with us here. And I gotta be honest, this series, I should say, is something that has been on my heart for a long time. And it's something that, if I'm really honest, I was like emotional this morning thinking about it. I was making some notes about some things I wanted to go over. And to be quite honest with you, it brought me to tears because I'll share a little bit of my story with you. But when I was thinking about the results that people have got from doing this work with me and the results that they've created for themselves from this information and the transformations that have really radically shifted their life and the ripple effect that has come from that, it just shook me a little. It just brought me to a deep sense of gratitude. And I'm just really excited that this was something that could serve you. And I'm so grateful you all gave me the feedback that this was something that was relevant for you and it would be of service. So I'm just going to mute my sound. So we have 3 days to play together. I'm so excited about every day. I have to be honest that my biggest sort of challenge, I should say, is not overwhelming you and not giving you everything I want in my brain to be transferred into your brains. I have so much that I want to share. I have to remind myself that less is more. So I'm really going to try and sift this down to what's most potent for you and hope that it serves you however you need it. It will land just the way that it needs to. So day 1 is all about map your money story. And the reason why we're starting there is because this is sort of the undercurrent of everything. And I know that there's a ton of money programs out there. I know there's a ton of money mindset work. I know all of these things. And on some level, every one of those things starts with this. But the reason why I believe that we need to start with this is because we can't get to where we want to go if we don't look at where we're starting. Right? So mapping our money story is really just asking ourselves some questions about what do we believe about money and about wealth and about receiving and how do we feel about money, and everything is energy. So what are we connecting our energy to when it comes to investments and value and selling and all of those things? So that's why we start with Map Your Money Story. And day 2, tomorrow, also at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're talking about soulful selling. We're talking about the energetics of money and how we sell way before we even make an offer. We're talking about how what we think and what we feel is really the thing that is selling what we're putting into the world, even though it doesn't really look like that. And if we're in business, we need to sell. And I don't believe that selling is an icky, yucky thing. It really comes from a place of service and a place of heart. So I'm really excited to have that conversation with you because I know for me, especially as a creative and as someone that wants to do good in the world, whether it was photography or mentoring, I had to do my own work around like, I don't want to charge for this. It comes easy to me, or I don't want people to be upset that it's too expensive and all those things. So I'm going to speak to all that. And day 3, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this one, is called Playing for Profit. Now, The reason why this one is so important is because we're in business. Even if it's a side hustle, even if it's a passion project, there is an element of business in this because you are still using your time and energy to produce something, to create something. Whether you're helping somebody, you're doing a reading for somebody, you're producing a piece of art for them, you're creating a course for them, you're doing coaching with them, whatever it is, there's an exchange there. And so profit, something us creatives sometimes have a problem with because we don't want to look at the numbers, right? So we're going to talk about that and how to make it more fun and what's really happening and why we have to look at our numbers if we want to continue our purpose work in the world, because without it, we actually can't continue. And it happens sooner rather than later if you don't actually look at the numbers. So we're going to dive into all of that. But today, that's the lay of the land. I wanted to give you the lay of the land. And I think it's really important to make this super clear. So like I said, I have been in this arena for over 15 years. This is a combination of all the things that I have learned. Hey, Genevieve. These are all the things that I have learned over the last 15, well, really my whole life, but the last 15 years is where I've really done a lot of work in the creative business world and also for myself, my own psychology and personal development. But it would be impossible for me to give you all of that stuff in 3 days, right? So this is a series that it is my intention with this series that you will actually get actionable things that will go ahead and really help you transform right now. But if you want to make an even quicker transformation by collapsing the time that it takes for you to get there, because I believe we're all capable of doing this work on our own, and that's fine. Hey, Jess. But I want you to know that there's no way for me to give you all this information in 3 days. So I'm going to be making an offer to you. If you're offended by something like that, no problem. I just want you to have the heads up that that is something that's part of this training because it feels of service, where I know that transformation is in a transaction. So there is an offer that is available. I'll be speaking to that later. Hi, lady. But I want you to know up front that this is definitely something you're going to get value from. It is things you're going to be able to take action on. It is things that you are going to shift your perspective with, because that is what all of my work is really rooted in. And money is attached to everything. So we're going to talk about the difference between money and wealth and all those things. But if you are here with me live, I would love for you to share how you are feeling, what your intention is. Why did you decide to invest your time with me, whether it's here live or on the replay? I would love to know what felt calling to you. Why was it that you decided you are willing to share your energy, your time, and your commitment with me? I'm so grateful for that, but I'm curious to know what your intention is. My intention is to show up here with an open heart and to give you a sense of a perception, that too, but to give you a perspective shift, because when we shift our awareness, things become entirely different and much more open, and we get to see things in a new possibility. And that's really what I want for you, because I had to do the dirty work myself and I want to help you avoid that. So that is where we are at. That's the sort of housekeeping stuff. That's what's the overview of the next 3 days and what you can expect. I also mentioned on the live the other day that I'm going to be giving away a 30-minute call. I'm going to be posting about how you can win that over the next 3 days later in the group. I don't want to go into it too much here because for the sake of time. I don't want these, the last thing I'll say about housekeeping is I don't want these to be long hours and hours and hours of training, but I am going to come at this with the open heart and assume we're all friends here. I'm going to treat you as if you were a client. I'm going to expect that you are willing to show up with the same open heart and being coachable and staying open to the process, because you're here, right? And so I'm not going to downplay this. I'm not going to keep the secrets for later. I'm going to open an invitation of courage and vulnerability and trust that you are here because you decided to be and you're willing to be coachable. So Amita says to be more aware of the value of my time and resources I give away too easily. Beautiful. You will totally get that. I am so happy that you shared that because I know that so many other people feel that way too. So yay for you. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started with day one. So day one, we're talking about map your money story. And the reason why we are going to do this, like I said a few minutes ago, if you're just jumping on, I'll recap a little bit for you, is the reason we're doing that is because we can't get to where we're going if we don't know where we're starting from, right? It's just like a GPS. So if I get in my car and I want to go from Boston to California, I can't get in my car and just type in California. It has to know a starting address, right? Because there are infinite ways to get there, and that's amazing and fantastic. But if I'm not clear on where I'm starting, I have no idea what possibilities are even out there. We need to know where we're starting, and we need to know where we're going. So the reason why we're starting with this and why we're mapping our money story is because the crazy thing is we are conditioned, we are indoctrinated with habits and thoughts and beliefs at such a young age about money, about wealth, about finance, about asking for money, about receiving money, about spending money. All of those things happen to us before the age of 7, which is also the time that our subconscious mind is being totally open to being programmed. Why is that important? Well, the truth of the matter is, whatever you believe about money, unless you've really done a deep dive into looking at this work and looking at your habits and patterns, you likely adopted whatever your current experience was as a child. So, what does that mean? It means that whatever your parents believed about money, you likely have some version of that, or you have the extreme opposite, right? So we're going to look first we're going to start looking at like, what was the experience that your parents, your grandparents, your family, your society, all of those things sort of gifted to you without you knowing, right? Because that's what happens. And the other thing that I want to speak to about this is, while we're doing this work, it's super important for us to not apply any kind of judgment to it, right? This is just from a place of wonder. It's from a place of curiosity. And it's from a place of opening our heart and recognizing, in order to actually make a difference, we have to be able to look at the facts, right? The crazy thing is, what we believe are facts aren't actually truths. There's a difference, right? So the reason why we're starting with getting curious about what beliefs we have is because 99% of the time, they're not actually your beliefs. Now, why does this play a part in this? Well, first and foremost, we are hardwired to stay within our tribe. Now, what that means is we have a primal instinct to want to stay within what is comfortable to us, what is our family, what is our support, what gives us food and shelter, right? Though that's a primal thing that we have. Our brain is hardwired for that. And so there's an intense correlation between family beliefs and what we believe about money, because we actually don't want to get kicked out of the tribe. When our brain perceives this on a subconscious level of we're getting kicked out of our tribe, it makes us feel like we can't survive, right? If we get kicked out of the tribe, then we run the risk of being dead. And the subconscious mind's primary job is to keep us alive and safe. Safety is an illusion. That's a whole nother conversation, right? But the reason why it's important to start looking at this is because your brain is running this program, just like a computer program, on autopilot without us even knowing. So here are some things that I'd love you to consider. Did you hear things in your life like money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are evil, you have to work hard to make a good living, right? Live within your means, all of that? Those are like common things that we hear about our parents passing down their beliefs about money because they grew up in a different time and a place than us, right? So you absorbed that experience from your parents, whether you knew it or not, whether your mom spent all this money or saved all this money, or there was never enough, or somebody was always working and you made the correlation that you have to work in order to make a lot of money, and there's no exception to that, right? So the reason why that plays a part in where you are today is because that vow to family is an actual hardwired experience, and you aren't even conscious of it. Now, here's the bananas part. If you and I had a conversation directly, some of the things that you believe to be true about your money circumstance, I don't share those beliefs. Why? Because we didn't have the same experience, right? So if we're having two different experiences, that's how we know it's not a truth, right? So Amita says money was associated with sacrifice of freedom. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is such a big one for so many of us, right? I need to give this up in order to get that. That can be such a deep rooted core money belief that it's no wonder, right? This is how it actually plays out. And I'm going to get to this. I don't really want to jump too far ahead, but here's what happens. When we have the belief that I have to give up my freedom in order to make money, that goes against my core values. And so I won't actually do the things to make the money because I feel like I'm giving up the thing that I hold close. If freedom is my value, right? If freedom is my value. But if I have to sacrifice in order to feel freedom, then I will only do the things that feel like this has to be so hard. I have to work so hard. I have to kill myself. And then I feel worthy of the freedom. Do you see how that correlates? Right? So here's the other thing. When our subconscious mind gets this program of money is hard, you can't be successful at something you love. If you're creative, you have to be a starving artist. If you have something in your heart that you want to bring to the world, there's probably a million other people doing it. So who are you to do it? Don't bother, right? All these like little things in our monkey mind, the reason why they're showing up is because we have had evidence in our human experience that that was the way of the world for someone in our life. And because our vow to family is so strong and it's so primal, we don't want to be kicked out and we will stay within those holding patterns, right? So one of the things that we do in the work that I do with my clients and in my programs is looking at your core values and there's a process that we go through in order to uncover what they really are, because a lot of people like to think they know what they are, but when we get to the truth of it, it's actually not those. But when we realize what they really are, we get to strip away the beliefs that don't serve us, and we get to dissolve those beliefs that don't actually move us in the direction of our values, because we realize they're not the truth, right? The truth means it's the truth all the time, no matter what, for everybody, right? Abundance is a truth. We learn limitation, right? So if it was, your parents told you money doesn't go on trees, we can't afford this, we don't have enough money for that, or whatever, that's conditioning. That's the programming that's going into your brain saying we don't have enough for this. So if we don't have enough for this, don't ask for what you want. That belief becomes a lens of your way of the world, like you're putting on glasses or looking through a camera, and then that becomes your normal. Can you see how this is related to our businesses and our purpose work in the world? If we don't start looking at what were the messages that we were indoctrinated with, what were the messages that our parents told us, our family, our community, our society, if we don't start looking at those, then we can't actually change it. Now, here's a perfect example. Until we have an actual experience of it being different, it's just conceptual, right? So when I was in my photography business, I was charging $50 for like 500 images. Now, that doesn't even account for my actual shooting time, my editing time, my uploading time, my culling, my going through and, picking the best of the best and all that stuff. To say I was losing money is a drastic understatement, right? But I was like, it's $50. Yeah. And I love it. And it's good. And it's easy. And it's effortless for me. And it's fine. And I don't really care, right? No, that's not what was really going on. What was really going on for me is I didn't want to ask people for money for something that I loved, because my experience growing up was you can't make money at something you love doing. I never had an example of that, right? It was just, you have to go get a job, work at the job, stay in the job, get the paycheck. That's what my example of where you got money from came from, right? So when I invested in myself and I started taking courses and I went to workshops and I had hired mentors, I realized that actually wasn't the case. And I started to have a real life example. And so the first sale that I ever made, where I made $1,000 from selling my photos to a family that I had taken pictures of, it completely shattered and dissolved the belief that I had held as truth that I couldn't make money at something I loved. And once you have an experience, you can't unknow it, right? So, I'm just looking at my notes. On the heels of this, the reason why this is so important is because if I'm going to create the money that I desire and I don't want to compromise my heart because my values are my guiding compass, right? Well, then I have to be really clear about what do I believe is possible for me to make money doing the thing that I love, right? And we're going to talk about soulful selling tomorrow, and that's a big part of it. But if we don't know where we're starting, if we don't know what we actually believe about money because of our human experience, then it's like getting in the car without the GPS set, right? So in order to get in the car, set your GPS, take your hand off the emergency brake, and start driving, we have to ask ourselves some important questions. And some of those important questions are things like, what did your parents tell you about money? What is your earliest memory of money? What do you think about when you think of the most wealthy person you know? Do you think that money is the root of all evil, doesn't grow on trees, hard to come by, really difficult to do something if you're passionate about it, or it comes easy to you? These are all questions that you can start asking yourself to get a pulse. That's it. There's no shame in this game. There's no reason to feel bad about it. There's no reason to be pissed at your parents about it or your childhood. None of that stuff serves us. We are just coming at this from a loving heart, from curiosity, from simply a place of awareness. That's it. We're just getting curious, right? So your action items today are to look at what are your earliest memories of money? What did your parents tell you about money? What were the beliefs that they told you when it came to Christmas or holidays? What kinds of things were you allowed to ask for or not? What did you think about the neighbors down the street? Like, this is the crazy part because we think this is just the way it is for everyone. But it's fascinating to see that everybody has a different experience, right? And so earlier, I know that Andrea had posted a question about wanting to charge something, but she felt guilty because she couldn't afford it. And I'm going to speak to a specific story that I had myself in photography when I had clients paying $5,000 for family portraits, like hand over hand. But I knew myself, I wasn't in a position to do that as a single mom and how I worked through that. We're going to talk all about that tomorrow. But I had to look at, for me, what were the stories that I was telling myself? Why was it important for me to hold on to this, like, I can't afford that, so how can they afford that? And I should price this super low because then everybody can do it. And there's a huge, huge difference between playing not to lose and playing to win. We're going to talk about those things on Wednesday, because those guiding lights of playing not to lose, meaning there's never enough, right? And playing to win is at what cost, right? How much are you willing to give up to get to the wealth that you desire? We're not interested in either of those, by the way. I'm going to show you a different way. But we have to start asking ourselves the question of, do I operate? And this is where some radical responsibility comes in. This is what I did for myself. And this is like, I invested in a lot of different things, but until I really started investing in my mindset work around money specifically and understanding the energetics of money and how it's not just, it's so much more than just numbers. Numbers are non-emotional, by the way. That's a whole nother story. It's the meaning that we're attaching to them. But until I really started, like I took business stuff, I took workshops, I hired mentors, all that stuff. And it wasn't until I really started healing my relationship with money that I realized how much it affects everything else, our self-worth, our confidence, our willingness to sell, our ability to be present in our life with our family, like all the things. And like I was saying at the beginning of this, that's why I started to get so emotional when I started thinking about this training, because I started thinking about, I'm not going to get emotional again. I started thinking about how the stress and anxiety of not having a system that lets me do the work in the world to help the people that I know need help, just like all of you. Not having that in place creates such anxiety and stress and blocks my creativity. And when I was thinking about being in that place 14 years ago and having to navigate all these currents of like, what do I do and how do I charge? And before I understood all the underlying currents of it and the way that it really works, it was so much suffering. And that's not to say it goes away. There are still days where I slip back into that, right? For all kinds of reasons, because new level, new devil, as they say, right? It's just the next level, the next emergence, and that's fine. But before I had these tools, it breaks my heart to think about the woman that I was silently suffering because I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know who could help me. I didn't know what was possible. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so I was thinking about, why does this matter so much to me? And especially as someone that believes in doing purpose work in the world, it made my heart almost like skip a beat when I think about what happens when the woman who has impactful work in the world, whether it's through her art or her writing or her coaching or whatever it is, and she gets to give her kids an experience that she would never have been able to do before because she was able to create a system of wealth through her business, or she gets to pay for her home, or she gets to create something in the world that changes other people's lives. But because she knows how to do it from the inside first, she never has to have that fear again. It just rocked me. It just reminded me, like, I haven't been talking about money, except for my one-on-one clients, for a really long time. And it's the thing that I've been most passionate about helping people unlock. I had one client that came to me and the highest sale she ever made was $200. And she loved the work that she was doing, but she couldn't make the numbers work. And until we really uncovered what were her beliefs about money, what was her money story, what was she attaching to it, what was the meaning, and more specifically, what is her value and what are her values and what is her compass, it was literally like so fast. Before I knew it, she was messaging me and saying that she was making $3,000 sales, $2,000 sales, $3,500 sales. And don't get me wrong, it is not about the money for me. It is about the money because I'm all about experiences and memories. It's about giving yourself the peace, reducing the anxiety, reducing the stress and the suffering, because without a system, it feels so elusive. Does this make sense? Is this resonating with you guys? Hey, Melissa. So without having a clear system or a compass, right? It's really hard to know that we can shore up our confidence. It's really hard to believe that everything that's happening for all the other people and everybody out there that we like to tell ourselves have it all figured out, but truth is everybody's just winging it. I mean, not really, but like, you know, we're all in it together. No problem, Amina. It'll still be here. I'm just about to wrap up anyway. I want to keep these, you know, pretty short and condensed so you can go take the action on the things and start to get curious. But thank you for being with me, and I'm so glad it makes sense for you. So if we don't have that guidepost, we don't have the North Star, we don't have the compass, we don't know what we're doing, our confidence gets shaken. It's really hard for us to show up in confidence. It's really hard for us to believe in what we desire. It's really hard for us to get our energy in alignment to create the money that we want without compromising our heart. That's why it feels so hard, right? So today's all about mapping your money story. It's about getting in the car and putting in the GPS points, right? What did you grow up believing about money? I'm sure a bunch of you have heard this before, but I really want you to do the work because you're in a different time. You're in a different space. You're hearing this for a reason. You're here to get the medicine you're here to get. Your heart is seeking this. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it, right? So really ask yourself the question, what do I believe about money? And if you've been in this game for a while, ask yourself the question, what do I believe about money now? Because yes, we have all this subconscious programming that happens under the age of 7, right? But we also still create little like software mental upgrades as we go through our life. And those things happen through experience. So maybe you made an offer and it didn't convert and you didn't get the sales that you wanted. Well, then you created a story and you started to make it mean that you weren't worthy of this. This wasn't meant for you, right? So these sneaky little stories can come in the back door of our mind and create even more compounding evidence in the wrong direction, right? So here's what I would love for you to do. These are your action items. Get curious about what did you grow up hearing about money? What did you witness growing up about money? How did your parents spend money? What were you allowed to ask for? What did you feel guilty about? What did your parents, how was money viewed in your home? And yes, I'm sure you've done this before. I'm doing this work too. I've done this work for years, but I'm still doing it because every time I find something new, right? So I want you to get curious about all of those things. I want you to get curious about your earliest experience with money. I'm just looking at my notes. What else did I say? Your earliest experience with money. What do you remember? Was there any kind of moment that you remember an impactful experience about either not being able to get something or not being able to afford something or feeling guilty for getting so much, or maybe somebody made fun of you? Look at all those things and see what comes up. I would really encourage you to journal about it. If you're feeling brave and you would like even more support, please share it in our community because I promise you, the more you share, the more you see you're not alone. I promise you what you have experienced, other people have experienced too. So today is all about map your money story, why we need to know what are lenses of the world, what do we believe is possible about money? Does it feel hard for you? Does it feel uncomfortable to talk about? Is it a taboo conversation in your family? Do you talk about it with your partner? Do you talk about it with your kids? Like, what do you feel about money in general? We have to uncover that stuff first, and then we can move on to the selling part because, like I was saying earlier, if I believe that making money makes me greedy and I don't want to lose the people in my life if I make a lot of money, well, then I'm never going to actually make a lot of money because the subconscious programming in my brain is you will be kicked out of the tribe if you make a lot of money. People that make a lot of money are bad people. You are not a bad person. Therefore, you will never do that. Make sense? These sneaky things, man. I'm telling you, this is why being a transformation catalyst means the world to me, because when we shift our awareness and realize that that is not a truth, and we tap into the universal principles of what are truths, that there is more than enough for everybody, that there's no finite number, that we have everything available to us right now. It's an actual system we need to tap into in order to create the results that we want. When we can do that, everything changes, but we have to know where we're starting from. So do that for yourself. Let me know how it lands for you. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway was from this. We're about at a half hour, a little less. These trainings aren't going to be super, super long and in depth. One, because I don't want to overwhelm you. And two, because I know that your time is precious and valuable and I want to honor that. So thank you for being here with me. Please let me know what questions you have. I want to be able to serve you in this free experience. So please let me know. If you have questions about today, post them here under the video. If you have questions about tomorrow, you can even post those in a thread. In a post in the community, and I'll answer them tomorrow, all about soulful selling. And then on Wednesday, when we're talking about playing for profit, if you have questions about profit or money or whatever, which is not budgeting, is not cutting, is none of those things. We're talking about playful prosperity. We're talking about playful money, right? So that is on my heart. That is what today is. Please go check out the replay. If you are catching us late, go check out the replay. If you were not able to be here live, make sure you watch the whole thing. And then let us know how you feel. Let us know what you discovered, because with your clarity comes the ability to unlock a new level of awareness. And when we do that, we can take different action. All right, my friends, thank you for being here. I hope this serves you. And I am so in your corner, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.